What happened
Thanks,
to the
Scott.
weekly chickens?
Okay.
Fire quantums. I can't, Captain. My arm won't stop twitching.
It was a choice between your
Fire
highly
quantums.
complex
I can't,
cybernetics
Captain. My arm won't stop
or,
twitching.
or watering my plants, and I think we all know which is the more important.
My arm won't stop
Or,
twitching.
or watering my plants, and I think we all know which is the more important.
Anyone else getting an echo?
There was an echo.
Yeah, there was an echo there. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or maybe it's just your cybernetics glitching.
Indeed. Well, welcome everybody once again to episode 2 of the Adventures of the USS Navis. So, yeah, some time has gone past since the last adventure, but the crew is still, for the most part, together. But yes, so first things first, as we have already detailed. Sorry, what was that?
Who did we fire out of the airlock to go and say hello to the passing ship?
I don't think you fired anybody out of an airlock.
Mostly intact. That means that someone has died.
No, what I mean is...
No, not Ensign Reg... Ensign...
Of a werewolf scenario of during the night, someone has passed away, and you must find the traitor amongst you.
Somebody on night shift just messed up with the docking bay. It's fine. They were fired summarily. No. Yeah. So as I've just stated, Lieutenant Commander Vibers, the Trill Chief Engineer, for the moment is going to be a supporting character, and due to John being unavailable this week, Lieutenant Natala will, for the moment, also be in a supporting role. As we've noted previously, Captain Adriana Ducasse is also a supporting character, as is the First Officer Commander Linaris Loss. Apparently I demoted him and then remoted him within the space of a couple of seconds.
He knows what he did.
He does, he knows what he did. But yes, Gareth as Dr. Lloyd Bertram, we can all hear that your voice is a bit croaky, so
yeah,
do your best. Do your best.
I will. If I don't answer immediately at any point, I'm probably muted to take care of a problem. But I'll try not to let it mess up the game too much.
That's fine. It's all good. So we have Webby as Lieutenant Commander Sophia Andrews, the second officer, also the Tactical and Security Officer. We have Jan as Lieutenant Keval Fazanan, our Helm Operations Officer. As General Ops, we have our token Beta Z, otherwise known as the ship's cat, Lieutenant Erienne Nova. And that's about everybody. So, anything anybody needs to announce before we get going? Nope. Smashing. Okay. So, it has been a fair while since episode 1 and the start of this episode. In the time since your last outing, stuff has happened in the galaxy, and recently Starfleet has learned that the Dominion is actually a Gamma Quadrant power that is headed by none other than the Changelings, same race as Deep Space Nine's Chief Security Officer. So the Changeling situation has now come about. And also putting Starfleet on the back foot is the recent loss of the Enterprise D. The Enterprise D having been brought down during the events of the film Star Trek Generations. So that's been a big blow to the morale of Starfleet recently. Their flagship has been taken out, and now there's this issue with a race of people who can seemingly impersonate anybody. And they are this new power behind the Gamma Quadrant. So there's starting to be a bit of a strategic shift going on in Starfleet, as there's also mutterings of basically paranoia amongst the higher-ups in Starfleet, who are wondering now how they are going to cope with keeping the Federation safe from a race that can pretty much infiltrate anywhere. So this is a noticeable problem. It hasn't made any operational differences so far for the crew of your ship, but it has been news that you've heard about, obviously, over the communications wire, and whenever you've stopped at a starbase to refit or for a bit of shore leave, obviously that's been the topic of, or those have been the topics of conversation. So,
Like, are they actually technologically superior, or is it just bluster? And yeah.
So this episode will take place before Deep Space Nine gets given its Defiant, and before they head off into the Gamma Quadrant to make contact with... Actually, no, that's not true. They learned about the Founders after they went in. So yes, the Defiant has now been brought off the line and has been gifted to Deep Space Nine. So there is an out-and-out, made-for-battle warship been outed into service and has been given to Cisco and the crew of Deep Space Nine, which they then allied with the Romulans temporarily to give it a cloaking device in order to send it into the Gamma Quadrant and find the Founders, which they did. And of course we now have our security problem.
I have a question.
Of course.
It may just be flavour.
Mm-hmm.
Given that the two biggest things that have happened recently are the events of Star Trek Generations and the beginning of the Changeling / Dominion storyline, it does make me wonder, have any rumours started circulating around about any sightings of the greatest hero in the history of Starfleet inexplicably reappearing at the same time that shapeshifters have started to apparently infiltrate?
Are we talking about the alleged reappearance of James T. Kirk on the planet to help out Captain Picard?
Yes.
Well, I wouldn't put it outside of Dr. Bertram's personality to start have him openly wondering about this himself.
Yeah.
As such, you could very well end up starting that rumour.
Yeah, but before I said anything like that, I wanted to actually know that is it feasible that Kirk's reappearance due to Generations actually became known among certain circles, or was it just too brief to actually really be a thing?
Yeah, you broke up a bit there, sorry John, what was that?
I think reappearance and immediate apparent death.
Yeah. It depends how much of Picard's report was officially released.
Yeah.
Well,
you'd assume that some of that would be heavily redacted.
Yeah.
Because obviously the Rift, etc. The Starfleet probably wouldn't want people to know about how powerful the Rift is, and that if you get there, you can live out your wildest dreams.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah, let's not publicise the Nexus.
Yeah.
It's more sort of like if rumours about Kirk's reappearance had appeared, which is more likely, a known threat involving shapeshifting and expert impersonation manipulating one of Starfleet, the captain of the flagship of Starfleet, right at the point that ship was destroyed, or some mythical wish-granting energy field that apparently exists somewhere or other. I know which one I'd believe.
That's a good point. That's a very,
It
very
depends
good
how
point.
much the Enterprise crew talk. Have we got any of the Enterprise crew on board? We can go and
No.
interrogate them.
They would be being reassigned all over the place, wouldn't they?
They are more than likely being reassigned, yes. the Sovereign class has not yet come out of Utopia Planetius shipyards. Although at this point it is those in the know that there is a nice big shiny ship coming soon. In the meantime, Starfleet is now looking heavily at some of the other big prototype warships, such as yours. Because now ships like yours, which were some of the first warship designs off the line, especially the Navis being such a prototype ship with its extra large power core and being fitted with quantum torpedo, one of the first ships to be fitted with quantum torpedoes. Starfleet is now looking at the Navis with a certain amount of scrutiny as how well the ship holds up, but also, do we start putting the Navis on the line more to do active patrols of the area, or do we hang it back maybe to keep it as a surprise almost for anybody who might try anything?
A tide turner. Oh, the battle's not going well. Send in the Navis.
So yes, at the moment Starfleet's not altogether sure how they want to deploy the Navis. So at the moment you're on standard patrolling duties, around the Alpha Quadrant, but obviously your patrol routes have been... Go on, sorry?
I imagine there's kind of an admiralty pissing contest between people who still don't want warships, people who like the Defiant class, and people who like the Navis class.
Yeah.
Well, yes, obviously, because the Navis is a big ship, and like we've addressed before, the whole point of the Akira class is to be the center of a fighter wing, the heavy center of a fighter wing. So something like the Defiant would probably be something that works alongside something like the Navis. So
we'll stick the
you'd expect like a Navis and you'd expect like a Navis and half a dozen Defiants basically to be a group.
Something.
Stick the Defiant in the shuttle bay. It'll fit.
With the size of your enhanced shuttle bays, yes, it probably would. Be a bit of a squeeze, but I'm sure it would fit. So yeah. I don't remember what I was about to say, so I'm going to move on to it. Any more questions or comments or queries about the flavor text, as it were, before we move on?
Yes.
Yep.
In the light of low morale, if I detect anyone with low morale, I'm going to either hand them a mint or a chocolate that I've been gathering from food vendors.
Okay, smile. Well, this makes a certain amount of sense from Nova's point of view, because as an empath, I always got the impression that Nova got her bouncy, restless energy from the fact that she can feel the mood of others. And going through Starfleet Academy, you would have gone through with a lot of fellow Academy members who were probably full of energy and potential and wondering what they were going to do. And now that there's this sudden turn of almost turn of ideology is starting to happen from explorers to soldiers. There's a lot more of a note of seriousness coming in, which Nova's probably not all that familiar with, and would very much like to get her buzz back.
Yeah, I certainly miss it.
So yeah, whenever someone is being too serious, there could very well be the notion of, well, let's at least bring a bright spark back to some of them, so we don't have too many people downing the mood, as it were. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me from a character perspective. Of course, it could just be that you turn that frown upside down. Have a chocolate.
Well, it's also the fact that they would know I'm not a changeling if I give them a chocolate.
Unless that's what the changelings want you to think.
It's what they've gleaned off me, oh no.
This is how they win you over to the Dominion. They give you chocolates.
Oh, Sophia, you stopped twitching. Yes, I got it fixed. Changeling!
On a serious note, what betazoid be able to detect a changeling?
Well, that's a good question. They don't know yet because they haven't tried.
I'd imagine it'd come a lot down to familiarity with it at first.
For a telepath, maybe it might be a different matter because you can read the surface thoughts of somebody, but for an empath, you're reading the surface emotions. So I suppose, theoretically, it all comes down to how good an impersonator a changeling could be. So it's entirely possible that at some point, Lieutenant Nova has been approached by someone from Starfleet intelligence asking her about how good her empathic abilities are. Try again, John. You were a bit crackly on that one. I still couldn't make you out, sorry. Try once more.
And that person was a changeling.
Yes, well, this is the whole point, isn't it? You don't know anymore. But Starfleet intelligence were pretty quick to release Lieutenant Nova from any potential assignments they may have had for her, as they quickly realised that she was a bit too free-spirited.
And started revealing the deepest, darkest emotions because I can't lie either.
Yeah. Yes. Using someone who is unable to lie as an agent of any kind was quickly shot down.
I feel sorry for Keval, where he sits next to her on the bridge. It's sort of like any kind of emotion that he gets, he just stares at him and like.
Emotions. I'm obscure in my emotions.
I am calm. I am collected. I am calm. I am collected. I will stab you, Erienne, if you look at me.
Well, actually, no. The one who has the anger issues seems to be your chief engineer, where he does threaten to cut anybody who goes near his warp engines without consulting him first. So yes, Chief Engineer Vibers and Lieutenant Nova do have a bit of a bit not an issue with each other, but they are chalk and cheese.
Sorry, I just had to go and lick the warp core.
Just to see what he does, whether you'll assault a superior officer. Anyway, actually, no, you're kind of equal level, actually, aren't you? Second
Equal
officer
level in
chief.
responsibility, but on ship command, I outrank him.
People wonder why I'm cheating other stuff than your cybernetic twitches. You keep licking the warp core. I keep having to flush your mouth out of like neutrinos and stuff.
Well, by all means, we could go ahead and try to treat Commander's what's your name again? Sorry, Andrews. Commander Andrews' cybernetic arm malfunction.
Yeah, I can try doing that.
You're probably going to need a bit of assistance from Commander Vibers. So
You mean,
I
the
will.
chief engineer,
Yes.
who has no reason to sabotage this.
That twitch is never going away.
Nope.
Are you wanting to sabotage us? I mean, I'm available.
Well, there's at least one success. So
Okay.
Oh,
If
this is gonna
Dr.
get one success for a
Bertram-
complication.
if Dr. Bertram could roll me a reason and science.
Reason and science. Does this count as an extended task, or would this be a one-off?
No, it's going to be a one-off for now.
Okay. Reason, science.
Let's see how you do. Two
One
successes.
success.
Okay. So that's your first one momentum. Actually, that's a good point. I have changed the permissions for momentum. So I nominate Gareth. See if you can press press the plus on the momentum.
So this will either give us one momentum, or in
Or
Star Trek fashion, the console I'm hitting will blow up in a shower of sparks, injuring me.
That's because we've got 8 fret as well.
I don't have permission, so I guess I just got exploded.
Oh well, never mind then. Or me. You do not have permission to access this function. But no, those were two successes, so Webby, feel free to take away the twitching arm
Yeah.
trait from Commander Andrews.
Very good. You should now be in better health, but stay away from licking any warp cores for the next 2 weeks.
Well, I appreciate it, Doc, the fact that it took you 6 months.
Well, the damage was that extensive that it's taken this long to finally get it working again.
Well, perhaps if you didn't go around getting it shot by Romulans, then you wouldn't have to get it fixed in the first place. As doctors say often, prevention is better than cure.
Very well, Doc.
I'm going to give the
Next time
doctor
on
a
the
chocolate.
Just to see if the doctor's a changeling. Yeah. Okay.
Because
Maybe that was a secret weakness that we never realised changelings had. Chocolate.
They're allergic to chocolate.
so if you just try to actually keep that in good condition, and she's going, "Will you stop shoving that chocolate in my mouth? I'm trying to do surgery here, damn it!"
On the bridge as well.
Yeah.
No, this would have been done in sickbay. Obviously.
Despite popular demand.
Just put a bio bed in the bridge, it's fine.
It's the last thing the Dominion would expect.
The fact that the Navis
I
is
can imagine
probably...
there was a.
Go on, sorry.
I can imagine there was a betting pool running on how long was it going to take the doctor to fix the arm.
Yes, suddenly Lieutenant Nova gets a big flush of contained satisfaction from Keval as he realizes he won the bet. He wins an extra hour of holodeck time later.
I've just realised actually, for changelings as well, what we should do is we should swap all of the rooms round. So it's like the mess hall is actually the sick bay and things like this. So that only the crew of this ship know the layout. So when someone who gets impersonated by a changeling, you'd be like, "Ah yes, we'll meet you in the conference room." And they appear in the mess hall and we're like, "Ha! Changeling."
So rather than go to the effort of reconfiguring the entire ship, you just change the signs around.
Yeah.
All right then. There's going to be more than a few confused ensigns. New people that have come on board and been posted.
Remember, new ensign, when you look at the map and need to go to where you're supposed to, remember, engineering is the mess hall is the brig, and the brig is the shuttle bay. Any questions? If so, you are a changeling and will be shot.
We've got our eyes on you, Ensign Claret Sweatshirt.
Yeah.
Who names their kid Claret when their surname is Sweatshirt? I mean, I ask you. What kind of sick people are these?
It's that old troublemaker, the Lieutenant Crimson Sweatshirt. His son is called Claret.
It was Crimson. The originals was Crimson Jumper, Claret Sweatshirt, and Scarlet Sweater.
Ruby blouse.
And then Ensigns 1 through to 35, who we didn't even bother to give names for.
Yep. And Lieutenant Burgundy Top, who never made it to Lieutenant Commander.
2 days from retirement.
Yeah, and then he went down with the Captain, First Officer, Chief Medical Officer, and Chief Engineer. No one saw it coming.
So, shall we wait for the next mission bit to come through now, rather than we just tangent off about all the crew we've killed?
Who might have been a
Time
change.
on the tradition. Frustrating the DM with how long are they going to keep this tangent running before we get to the actual game?
Ah, this is good. This is good. This is the fun bit. Hockey docky. Let's change the ambience from night shift to day shift. The people who actually get things done. Anyone on night shift, feel free to correct me.
No.
Okay.
No, day shift gets more done. Well, actually, night shift work harder, but they get less done.
Yeah.
Did we even have a night shift? I thought the ship just cruised along.
Yeah. We all go to bed at the same time. Yeah.
The ship just comes to a dead stop and all the lights turn out. What was that, John? Sorry?
Nobody will admit to being the day shift.
Night shift get all the plum jobs, like, stress testing, quantum torpedo firing, and, of course, signpost switching.
It's when night shift wake up and changed all the signs without telling them.
It's just A1 and Alpha. Shift Alpha, Shift 1, Shift A. And nobody knows who is the second shift.
I can see this
Legend
going
has
wrong
it.
very quickly, actually. If night shift switch all the signs around, day shift wakes up, goes to the mess hall for their morning coffee, and they can't. There's a whole load there's a whole shift of officers who are in a really foul mood now, looking for where their coffee is.
Legend has it of a third shift called between the two called Daybreak Shift, which is still trying to find the damn bridge.
Anyway.
Realistically, on this kind of ship, you would have 3 shifts. You'd have a day, an evening, and a night shift. So it's 8-hour shifts each.
Yeah. It would make no sense for people to have to do 12-hour shifts. So yeah.
Real Navy runs in 4-hour shifts, except the 4-hour watches, except the dog watches, which are 2 hours each, to allow the shifts to switch over.
There was the whole thing in Next Generation where Riker resisted shifting to 4 shifts rather than 3.
That's right, yes. Riker did put that in. But, that was Riker. And I was about to make some kind of snarky comment about Riker, but then it fell out of my brain, so feel free to fill in something witty with whatever it was I was about to say.
Hey, Riker.
Yeah, it was Captain Jellicoe wanted a Delta shift,
Yeah.
and Riker didn't want it.
Yeah, and Jellicoe told him to get stuffed. I'm the captain.
Yeah.
Well, there was a rumour that he was trying to put in a 4th shift. Starfleet asked for a report, and all they got was a video file, which was 20 minutes of him grinning at the screen going, "Not a chance. We got you."
This is going to be a very slow night tonight, isn't it?
It's fine. Okay. Any more questions, comments, or observations, or whatever about the situation that you currently find yourselves in?
Has there been
Starfleet-wise.
any change in the mentality of the senior crew?
Well, that's entirely up to you.
Yeah, so also as obviously sort of like the Navis has been brought into more frontline level kind of missions. Are we still stationed in the Romulan, between the Romulan zone, the Romulan neutral zone, or are we now being encouraged more towards the Beta Quadrant? The Alpha Quadrant, sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, your previous posting near the Shackleton Expanse, you have been brought back to the Alpha Quadrant, obviously, with a nudge towards being at least within response distance to the wormhole next to Bajor. So Starfleet has at least kept ships like the Navis on a patrol of the general area, but with a nudge to keeping you within easy response time if stuff goes really bad. That was a very good point.
So, time period-wise, are the Klingons still following the Khitomer Accords?
At the moment, yes. The Klingons and the Federation are still linked via the Khitomer Accords. This is within like days, within like a week of finding out about the founders. Any other questions in that regard? Nope. Okie dokie. Let's get on. As you are on routine patrol, there is a communication that comes in from Starfleet Command itself. Lieutenant Nova, since you're on ops, you got the notification that Admiral Ducasse, the uncle of your captain, is sending a communication to your ship. and as such, when notified about it, the captain asks for it to be broadcast on the view screen. So, a decorated officer, Admiral Ducasse, fills the view screen. You can immediately see the family resemblance between your captain and her uncle. Obviously, he's a lot more wizened. Chief Engineer Vibers knows the Admiral personally, so he is already very familiar with the Admiral. However, Admiral Ducasse is not the Admiral that the Navis directly reports to currently, therefore this is an out-of-the-ordinary communication. However, it does have the authorization codes that mark it as not a personal call, this is actually a notification from Starfleet headquarters. Okay. Greetings, Navis. I have a mission for you. An hour ago, Starfleet was given notice that a Federation listening post out near Ramaldi Tamor had received an unusual distress signal. The signal apparently originates from the USS Atlantis, which in and of itself would not be that unusual, except for the fact that the data stamp on the communication marks it as being the USS Atlantis from the time of the Earth-Romulan War, 200 years ago. We would like the Navis to investigate. We are sending the coordinates now. So, naturally, the captain is a supporting character, but she is a supporting character for you, the players. So, if there are any questions you would like the captain to ask, feel free to pose them now.
Why us?
What was that, sorry, Shaun? I didn't catch that.
Why would you send us specifically?
Okay.
In that we're built for attacking, and this is a distress signal.
Okay, fair point. When the captain asks this question, why us? I'm sure there are other ships nearby. The Admiral nods sagely and is agreed. However, it is the unusual nature of this communication. What with the revelation of the Founders recently, we don't want to take any chances. As such, we need somebody who is a multi-purpose vessel. This could be a legitimate distress call, in which case we need somebody who is able to deal with the potential of injured crew members or the retrieval of a downed vessel. This might also be it might be a trap set by somebody using old and outdated Starfleet codes in order to try and attract a Starfleet vessel, in which case we need a vessel and a crew who have been outfitted for battle. However, it is also known that the crew of the Navis are also pretty skilled at investigative tasks, and as such, due to the somewhat nebulous nature of this mission, we thought we needed somebody who could fill all of those roles. Navis was the one that made the most logical sense.
What happened to the original USS Atlantis from that time period?
As far as our records show, the USS Atlantis was involved in a skirmish along the borders of United Earth Space and the Romulan Empire. They were marked as missing, presumed lost, just before the end of the Earth-Romulan War.
Would have been late 22nd century.
Correct. Any other questions?
Are there any changes we would need to make to improve our detection of chronoton particles and chronoton flux, in case there are any temporal issues involved?
We leave that up to you. Any other questions?
Is there any reason why this mission is not being forwarded to us through our regular chain of command?
This is, as I said, an unusual mission, and we thought it best to dispatch this mission reassignment to you as soon as possible. And of course, I requested to give you the news. To show my trust and my confidence. Any other questions? No? Okay. We forwarded you the coordinates. Be careful, Navis. We do not know exactly what it is that you are flying into. So take every precaution. But investigate. Find out what's going on. And take whatever steps you deem necessary. Starfleet out. At which point, the view screen cuts back to what it was before. Captain Ducasse kind of leans back in her chair and looks around the bridge. Observations, she asks the bridge crew.
What emotions did she feel towards her father?
That was her uncle.
Uncle, sorry.
You got the impression that it was almost one of annoyance at first, but then once the mission brief started rolling around, you got the impression of calm calculatedness. It's almost like you could feel that she was her gears were turning. You could feel the impression of her brain working.
I'm going to report back that I observed that she was annoyed and professional.
So, any observations from the crew?
Yes, I am wondering whether this new sort of break in the chain of command is an indication that Starfleet is worried about infiltration already at higher levels.
Good point.
What do we know about that sector?
Not much.
Is it near the border of anything of interest?
It was a place of no tactical significance, and wasn't exactly a system with a great deal of mineral, supply significance. Therefore, it's one of those systems that is like, well, we know about it, but it's not really worth putting that much effort into it. So it seems to be a system that's been largely left alone.
It seems odd to me that a vessel that was fighting in the Earth-Romulan War would wind up in the Alpha Quadrant. There's been recorded temporal incidents within Starfleet, has there not? But I don't think there's been spatial displacement. Majority of ships are
in particular, we know that a lot of Romulan technology produces chronoton particles. Bad interaction between anything to do with the Romulan cloaking devices can produce serious temporal events.
That explains the temporal, but not the spatial.
And how long would it take a vessel of that type, given its technology, to get from where it was originally supposed to be to where it was found?
Bearing in mind warp travel went up logarithmically in scale when they changed it from TOS to TNG, yes.
Anybody who goes to the trouble of looking up... Actually, we can use Keval's starship recognition here to give Keval a chance at remembering the type of ship that the USS Atlantis was. So we could go with... let's see. How about Insight and Con? With your focus on starship recognition.
Insight and Con.
No successes. Okay. It's no surprise, really, because this was 200 years ago. So this is ancient history. This is pre-Federation, United Federation of Planets stuff. So the name, the USS Atlantis. There is a USS Atlantis currently in operation in Starfleet. So it's not like they dropped the name.
It would be theoretically possible. I mean, the events of the original Enterprise NCC 1701, they encountered the starship Vija, which travelled phenomenal distance, had it not? So theoretically, a ship that's been 200 years adrift could be in this area.
Nothing's impossible. Well, very little is impossible.
But for something to be adrift and travel that distance, surely something must have detected it. I know space is big, but we've got sensors.
Points.
No power signature, but then now to be transmitting a distress call would suggest.
Yeah, unless it's literally phased in and out of what we call space, the fact that the distress call is suddenly being picked up indicates some sort of stimulus that would provoke that response.
Well, the Enterprise D reported a time loop incident recently from some reports that I'd read, where they met the I can't think of the ship name, but they were out of temporal. They'd been stuck in a time loop for several years.
I don't remember the name of that ship either, actually. No.
I would agree with Lieutenant Natala's initial observations, Captain, that we reconfigure the deflector for chronometric radiation.
The captain nods sagely at this. Okay. Noted. Any more observations? Very well. Helm set course for the Romaldi-Tamnor system. Chief and XO, I want you both to work crews on the shuttle bays. I want the shuttle bay converted to potentially take either live rescued crew or the potential of bringing on ship destroyed or damaged ship parts for analysis, maybe even repair. We probably need to outfit it for both. So get the engineering crews to start modifying the shuttle bays. Doctor, we're going to need your staff to be ready for the potential to receive casualties. But I'm also going to ask you to get your staff ready for temporal protocols. We're going to potentially be dealing with people that might be 200 years out of the loop. You're going to be dealing with a lot of very confused people, potentially. Your staff are going to need to know the protocols for dealing with such.
I'll begin procedures at once, sir.
Science, you make excellent points about needing to modify our sensors, maybe even our deflectors, to deal with potential temporal energies. I want you working on those solutions immediately. According to what I've been given, we should arrive in system within the space of an hour. I want all these preparations ready in 45 minutes. I want all stations ready. Helm and Ops, as soon as we arrive in system, I want you to be ready for anything. We don't know what it is we're going to be warping into. Commander Andrews, obviously the ship is going to need to be placed on alert, and depending on what it is we're going to end up dealing with, I want to be ready for anything, which means the potential for ship-to-ship combat. If somebody is willing to use a dummy signal to try and lure us in, that suggests pirates or maybe somebody else, which means they might want to try and board the ship in order to take it. So have security teams ready for boarding actions. But also, if this is some kind of ruse, we might end up with one or two refugees who might not be what they seem. So I also want security teams posted in the shuttle bays, ready for if and when we receive guests.
Of course, Captain.
Alright, report to your departments. Like I said, you all have 45 minutes to get all of this ready before we arrive. Helm to lay in a course.
Natala will leave the bridge to make the modifications to sensors directly, and I believe that'll be me bowing out for the evening. Sorry.
Okay then, no problem.
Have a good night.
Yes.
Good night,
Take
John.
care.
Yes.
Alright.
Keval will bring up the records of the Atlantis class, seeing as he completely didn't know how to calculate the speed, just to familiarize himself a bit more with what an Atlantis class is supposed to be capable of.
Okay, that's not difficult to find, so I won't bother asking for a roll for that. When Keval accesses records, it turns out that the USS Atlantis was one of the first NX class. So we're talking one of the same class of ship as the first Enterprise. So I forget the name. It was the Enterprise, and it was the Columbia, I think. I'm probably wrong.
It is Columbia.
Yeah, there were the first two NX class ships. So the Atlantis would have been more like the third off of the line. Third or fourth, in that kind of area. It would have been one of the very early NX types of Earth vessels made. Warp-capable Earth vessels. So they were capable of a maximum of warp 3, I think, 5 at most. I think they upped it to 5 later. So...
no, they were the first vessels to achieve Warp 5.
Yeah, there we go. So a Warp 5 capable ship.
Bearing in mind that that's linear, so it's only 5 times the speed of light.
Alrighty then.
Because they changed, they changed the speeds of the warp, so it became logarithmic. Because there's one episode of Star Trek TOS where they are chasing a probe and they go to warp 15. Which obviously, when you go into the Voyager era and they go warp 10, that's the fastest you can physically go. It's like,
Obviously, they were still figuring out the science of their own mythos at that point. But yeah, all right then. Course laid in. Off you go. Alright, so Lieutenant Natala is going to be busy with these sensors and the deflectors. The Doctor is going to be busy with his staff. The XO is going to be busy with the Chief Engineer, modifying the shuttle bays. Everybody else, oh, of course, Commander Andrews is going to have to talk to the security staff. Other than that,
and making sure that the weapon systems are primed and suggesting that we enter the system at yellow alert. so that at least the shields are raised when we're in.
Okay. So,
Sorry.
go on.
One thing the Doctor wants to make sure is done is increase sort of protections for things like airborne particles. As one of the things that will pop into his mind is both the concept of accidentally introducing what to us is harmless or dealt with contagions that we barely notice that they haven't had exposure to, or conversely potential strains of things that from our point of view might have been eradicated decades or a century or more ago that they're suddenly reintroduced into our systems.
All good points.
Yep.
All right then. So yeah, you can probably start running commands on the air filtration system to start to actively look out for any potential viral or bacterial contaminants.
Yeah.
Because that's a good point. According to hygiene theory, every one of you guys will have had less exposure to these morbidities than your counterparts from 2 centuries ago. Now, bearing in mind, at this point, the crew on board an NX-class vessel would have been entirely human. So you've at least got that advantage, that you know it's going to be definitely Earth-related.
On that note, could I pull up the profiles, like psych profiles of the bridge crew if they're still on record? So I can get an idea of their behaviours and thought patterns.
Let me think on that regard. You have access to the crew manifest, you don't have access to their psychological profiles. Back then, I don't want to say hodgepodge, but as far as United Earth were concerned, this was their first foray into interstellar everything. As such, obviously their computer systems were geared to a lot more to keeping everything running, and they didn't have counselors and stuff back then, and the psychological effects of extended deep space missions was not fully known back then, so the need to keep psychological profiles wasn't necessary. So all you can find on the crew are just basically their names and their serial numbers, and it's just basically a list of people. You don't even have pictures.
So we might expect some culture shock when they board a ship like this, such a multi-species makeup.
Absolutely.
But if it's 2100's vessel, then yes, because even human Vulcan crews were exceptionally rare.
Mm.
In fact, it was majorly humans. There was none in Starfleet at that time, if I remember correctly.
There wasn't a Starfleet. Actually, no, that's not strictly true. There was kind of a Starfleet.
It was United Earth Alliance, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, there certainly wasn't a Federation, but there was the nascent start of a Starfleet. Anybody else feel free to correct me on this, if I am in fact in the wrong. But the plain and simple half of the matter is you have the potential here for dealing for people who are going to be out of time. So... What was that, sorry, Shaun?
Quite freaked out by aliens. They've not met before.
Well, at least Andorians and Denobulans were known. And
Betazoids could get away with looking at you. Look pretty much human.
Yes.
Humanish.
Yes.
You've just got black eyes rather than.
Yeah. And a human that would meet the chief engineer, who's a Trill, would just think he's somebody with, birthmarks. But yeah, the odd Denobulan, the relationship with the Andorians was getting better by the point of the Earth-Romulan War. In fact, you know, Earth and Andoria and, if I remember, the Tellarites were trying, and the Vulcans. So the humans, the Vulcans, the Tellarites, the Andorians were all trying to form an alliance at the time of the Earth-Romulan War, which is supposedly one of the reasons why the Romulans jumped in against the humans. But that's speculation at this point. Any other bits of info you want to glean? No? Okay. So, everyone being used to the stellar level of efficiency on this ship, they do manage to make all the necessary adjustments within time. So, within the space of an hour since you set off, Ops and Helm, you get the notice that you are approaching the Ramaldi Tanor system. As such, it's time to drop out of warp. And as soon as you drop out of warp, the captain asks for half impulse power. And as you do, the ship lurches. The captain looks around. Report! At which point I will ask for Ops to give me a control and science task, aided by the Navis's... let me see... That will be their sensors and science. So somebody nominate yourselves to be the Navis. Going once, going twice. Gareth?
Yep, okay.
Do you remember where to find the Navis?
Yep, underneath ships.
Yep.
Okay, and was it sensors and science, did you say?
Sensors and science. And when you perform a task, remember you're only doing one dice because you are aiding.
Okay. Ooh.
4 successes in total. You only needed 1, so you've already gained 3 momentum. Now, of course, you can use momentum to ask me questions about what you find. However, let's give you the information you get just from your sensor scan. What you just hit, or what just struck you, was a gravity disturbance. So, what's the best tech way of putting this? Gravimetric distortion. There we go. Upon entering the Ramaldi Tanor system, you hit a gravitational distortion. So, do you want to spend any momentum to obtain information? Once, going twice.
I think it might be useful to know if it's sort of a single gravitational event or whether it's a lasting gravitational anomaly.
Webby, you had something as well?
Yeah, pretty much along the same lines, to be honest.
Okay. I will spend a momentum, and you asked me the question of, was it a single event or is it a... Reword and refine the question for me.
Okay. So, is it a persistent gravitational event, or is it sort of dissipating? Can we still detect the event?
Further investigation reveals that there is a large amount of graviton and tachyon energy coming from further into the system. So this isn't a one-off. There is actually gravitational disturbance in the system.
Besides for that initial shudder, are the ship's controls being affected? So is there a constant
Not currently.
pull or deviation?
Not currently, and I'll give you that one for free. Ship systems seem unaffected, and they don't seem to have taken any damage.
Are we able to? Ops, are you able? Ops science, are you able to put out a wider band search route to see if we can narrow down where in the system the gravitational disturbance is coming from?
I will certainly volunteer Lieutenant Natala to assist on a
Bouncing off the deflector dish.
on a task in that regard.
I think since it's senses, wouldn't Natala be better at doing it, and I'll assist?
Yes, however, since John is not playing, Lieutenant Natala is now a supporting character, so she can assist, and she can still add her focus to it. So I am going to ask for Nova to do it, but it's being assisted by the ship and by Natala. So Jan, if you can do the part of the ship this time.
Is it still sensors and science?
Correct. So we've already got 2 successes from Natala. Oh dear. 1 success from Nova. Now, you earned... What was that? That was a... So you earned 2 momentum from 3 successes. You can spend a momentum to re-roll that complication, if you want.
There's a part of me that's like, I think it'll make it more fun if there is a complication.
Seems a bit early to get one.
Yeah, alright, go for it.
Okay, so I've spent a momentum. Feel free to re-roll that, that 20, Jan.
Right.
So just where it says re-roll results, re-roll result. There we are. So you didn't get a complication this time, but that was still a success. The center of the...
We blew a power coupling in one of the EPS relays, but it's okay.
Yeah.
Fibers was standing next to it, so he was able to repair it instantly. He's like, no.
Yeah. So there was a brief power spike, which is not surprising considering the sheer amount of power this ship outputs. That's a good point, actually. Active sensors don't take power, and you would have recovered the power you spent putting on warp drive when you got here, so that's fine. We'll bother with that later. Right, so a further scan of the system reveals that the center of the gravitational and tachyon waves appears to be from an event horizon has an event horizon that's close to the 3rd planet in the system. At which point I am going to quickly bring you to this map so you can see what I'm talking about, I hope. So can you see the new map?
Nope. Oh, no token with vision.
Okay.
Is it kind of like a backstrip?
Let me fix that. Vision.
Yeah, I can see the Navis has a 1 square vision.
Oh, it does too. Let me fix that. That's probably because I didn't put this map to be visible to everybody. So let's see. Reminder time orbit, lighting. Oh yeah, I didn't do unrestricted vision range. Pop!
Ta-da!
My fault. I do apologize. So if I can just move the Navis, you're currently still at the edges of the system at the moment, but you do get a visual reading of a planet and something very close to it.
The ship's huge!
Looking at the navigation charts, I suspect that is not something that was here before.
Yes, you can very easily deduce that.
You would have thought someone would have noted big swirly red thing on the navigation charts, wouldn't you?
Eye of Sauron.
Bum.
Is it? Obviously, there is some sort of gravitational phenomenon in this area, but is it also worthwhile taking some active scans of the planet itself as well to see if that's been affected based on the historic navigational charts?
Move you back to the bridge then. Poppity poppity pop pop pop. Who's still on the ship? There we are. Be right back. Okie dokie. Well, Webby made a good point, or rather, Commander Andrews did. Captain Ducasse asks for a more in-depth, a scan of the planet, basically. So, Webby's no longer with us. Shaun, can you give me another sensors check? And Gareth, can you do the honors with the ship sensors?
Yeah, assistance again.
Please. So same again from Nova. Thank you. One success. So you've at least got that one success. So anything that the ship generates is bonus.
Ship generated 1.
Ship generated 1, so that's an extra success. So there you go. The planet. Now that you're doing an active scan of the planet, you detect that it is a planet entirely devoid of fauna, but is redolent with flora. So there's no animal life on the planet whatsoever, but there is, strangely, a single human life sign. And the source of the distress signal seems to be coming from the planet.
And plants.
Yes, as soon as Dr. Bertram hears that there's a planet with nothing but plant life on it, his attention definitely pricks up.
Yeah, I'm rubbing my hands together now.
Such a dendrophile.
Yes. He'd probably prefer if this was one giant floating greenhouse in space.
Yeah. To be honest, I think we should go on the rescue mission just to get that human off the planet that belongs to the plants. That's just me.
It's a rescue mission for the plants, not the planet.
Yeah. And I suppose while we're down there, we can, see if that human needs help as well.
All right. The captain says, Helm, put us within orbit of the third planet, but give that distortion as wide a berth as we can. I don't want us getting infected.
The planet between us, isn't it?
So
we still want to be. I still try and keep sensors monitoring it just in case it fluctuates.
Okay.
Set an alert.
Give me another sneaky sensors check, Shaun, but this one without the help of the ship.
Yeah.
I want to see if Nova's good enough to notice something. Ooh, hello! Right. Okay. This is one of those points where I have to ask for players' preference. Would you prefer me to give the information directly to Shaun? And so that Shaun can now give the information as his character would upon discovering this, whatever it is? Or would you simply want me to just state it for the whole group on the assumption that Lieutenant Nova states this information the moment she learns it?
I think she would just blurt it out the moment she learned it. She's that excitable.
Okay. Everyone else all right with that?
Yep, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Sure.
So we'll go into the assumption that as long as it's not something I need to keep secret from anybody, then I will go into the assumption that information is information shared. Okay. Nova, as you're busy keeping an eye on the sensors, something catches your eye about the distortion as the ship is drawing closer. You notice that some of the readings coming from it indicate that there's a metallic structure. You're definitely reading a fabricated object within the event horizon of this distortion. And the mineral composition would seem to suggest a ship. Now, you did generate a point of momentum in excess of your maximum, so you may as well use it to ask me a question. If you could think of one.
Do the readings match what we've learned about the Atlantis?
Good question. Everybody all right with that question?
Yep.
Awesome.
Yes.
The mass and the metallurgical composition and the energy reading you're getting from from the ship caught in the event horizon matches what you know about NX class vessels. This would seem to be the Atlantis. So your guess... Sorry, go on.
The question now turns to, what do we want to do? Do we A, want to try and pull it through the event horizon, which brings us to a very close proximity to it, or do we want to try and close the event horizon because we've got potential temporal ripples that we could propagate back if we do pull them through and alter the timeline?
Well, something that's worth noting here that I will give you for free, what with the success that Nova just had scanning the I'm trying to think of a word that describes this stellar event, but it's basically it's a wormhole. You're looking at a wormhole, but it is in no way stable.
Is it worth opening hailing frequencies to see if we can actually communicate through the wormhole? Because obviously a communication band is much smaller wavelength than a transporter or tractor beam, etc., to initially try and gain contact.
You can certainly try.
Or are we going to have to get very, very close to the event horizon to try that?
Well, the comm officer does their best to open hailing frequency, and all you get back is... if I can play this. Ooh, that's not it. That's a storm! What you get back, it should be more like radio static. So yeah, you get nothing intelligible back.
Can we try opening a hailing frequency or open a channel to human who's, well, assumed human who's transmitting the distress signal on the planet?
Okay, yep. Okay, the comm officer reports back that there is a definite, similar to what happened in the first episode, the message was definitely received, but there's no response. Now, the comm officer was clever enough to modulate the frequency enough so that a 200-year-old transmitter-receiver would be able to receive just a basic hail. So it wasn't down to the fact that a 24th century ship is trying to hail 22nd century craft.
Captain, is it worthwhile firing a Class 1 probe at the phenomenon?
Ooh. The captain nods. Good idea, number 2. I really don't want to use the term number 2, but it just popped out there. But
It's
yeah,
fine.
Number 2 popped out. Gotcha.
It's fine. Commander Andrews knows that she's a turd.
This is what Arian's stifling giggling.
Good idea, Commander. Prepare a probe for launch. I forgot the French accent. Very good, Commander. Prepare the probe for launch. Okay. A probe is
I'm going
launched.
to probe the anomaly.
Off goes the probe. Okie dokie. I am going to ask for yet another sensors attempt. That's going to be by Ops. Webby, you get to be the Navis this time. But the probe will give you a bit of an advantage now.
Sensors science, is it?
Sensors science.
Task.
Am I on the same roll?
Yeah, as usual.
Getting good at this.
You're getting a lot of practice. You only need to roll 1 for the Navis, but 2 successes, 1 over. Because of the interference, I was going to make it a difficulty 2, so you got exactly what you needed. All right. The probe, obviously, sending its data back and putting it on the view screen. It's a very static and pixelated image, but as it's getting closer, you can definitely make out, amidst all the swirling red tumult within the eye of the wormhole, you can definitely make out a ship in the style of the old NX class. And as the probe is getting closer, the interference is starting to really mess up the probe. Lieutenant Natala is doing her best to clean up the signal, and just for a moment, you think you see a strange shape that is almost like a diamond shape, kind of lurking just behind the Atlantis, before the probe signal is lost, as the probe is crushed by the gravimetric forces.
With the probe obviously going in that direction, does it give us kind of like a telemetry and a gravitational wake path?
What it does give you is the analysis of the sheer amount of Tetrion radiation coming out is causing a disturbance in space-time, such that the information coming from being transmitted back from the probe has a distortion on its date stamp of the information, suggesting that in the eye of the wormhole,
Well, it is the same as a black hole.
Yeah.
Is that
In-
the gravity is slowing time, which is realistic.
So, as far as the science team can work out, in the eye of the storm, it's probably been only about 2 years. No, pardon me, 2 weeks. It's only been about 2 weeks for the crew of the Atlantis, for whoever's on the Atlantis, since they entered the wormhole. Anyone on the planet, which is a bit further out but still subject to the Tetrion radiation, it feels more like 2 weeks. Everybody
Okay,
clear
so
on
main
that?
priority, yeah. Main priority for me would be to potentially rescue the ship and then the crew on the planet's surface? What kind of do we get the class planet of the planet?
It is an M-class planet.
Always M class.
Due to the sheer amount of plant life, it is a very oxygen-rich atmosphere. Not to the point of it being deadly, but it will give you a bit of a woo-ha, lightheaded feeling if you do go down there.
Yeah, so as I say, my recommendation would be that we go for the ship first, because the ship seems to be in more danger.
Commander Vibers, the chief engineer, actually at this point said, I'm actually rather concerned about the gravitational stresses on the ship if we get too close. We get too close to that and we could get pulled in, just like them.
Agreed, but at the same time, there are provisionally people trapped in a temporal anomaly that have been trapped there for over 200 years.
The XO at this point speaks up, Commander Loss. It's also worth noting that we don't know exactly what the situation is on that ship at the moment. If the probe telemetry is right, then as far as they're concerned, they're probably just 2 weeks out from when they last fought the Romulans, or whatever it was that happened to them 2 weeks prior to them getting caught in the wormhole. Anyone who might be on the planet might at least know the situation on the ship. So there's that.
Can we maybe calculate a safe approach distance to the anomaly?
You could try. Absolutely. Boom, 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 boom. Let me see. Who would be the best for this?
Probably say Keval and Nova.
Yeah, I was thinking the same. So if Keval goes for reason...
Nova...
Sorry, go on, Webby.
I was just going to think is that Nova provides the data and Keval kind of is the one that looks at it and goes, no, we can't go through that way, we'd go this way, etc. So, yeah.
So if Keval goes for reason plus con, with the focus on astronavigation, Nova assists with insight plus science.
This is not the type of thing I want to get wrong, so...
Yeah, I'm going to make it a difficulty...
I will use one. One momentum.
You were going to use one momentum to buy yourself an extra dice?
Yes.
Fine.
Alrighty.
Nova's just popped 2.
Well, we've already got 2. So anything you get now for Keval is... Oi! Gravy! 4 successes for a total of 6. Wow, my godness.
When he said he definitely didn't want to get it wrong, he wasn't kidding.
Yeah, so...
Right, because we've now just boosted over the max. The end, whatever we saw with the Atlantis, obviously we didn't get, from what you said, you described it as not being a decent look. But does it kind of, from the brief description, does it resemble similarities to the crystalline entity?
When you run visual comparison to records of a crystalline entity, it does not match. The crystalline entity was like almost like a snowflake. In that it was long and it had those kind of snowflake lattices coming off of it. This was more like what's that old? There was an old 80s sci-fi movie, Flight of the Navigator.
God, that's going back a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone remember that?
I remember that.
Not well.
Not well. There was a ship in that, and that's the kind of sleek, almost crystalline design I was thinking of. I'm just gonna see if I can bring up an image. Flight of the navigator. Get a look at the ship. That's a pretty good one. I will grab that. Okay. I will post it in the Discord channel. See if that does it. Yeah.
I remember the movie.
That had time travel in it as well.
It did.
And also had a sinister computer voiced by Pee Wee Herman.
Indeed.
Weird to think that.
Yes, indeed. Compliance.
Yes. You are the navigator. Try not to wet yourself with my medicine voice.
So that's the kind of thing I was going for with that description, was something obviously alien and crystalline, almost organic looking, but almost like it was like grown crystal. Right, so yes, with Nova's help, Keval is able to get the ship closer to the wormhole, but as you start getting closer, the ship does start to complain as you get closer, and you start hearing the frame of the ship audibly creak. You all make that out?
Yep.
So, what are your intentions now that you're getting closer?
Right. I think if the whole stress is starting to increase, I think we back up a bit further and then follow the commander's suggestion and bring the ship back to a safer position, check the planet, see if we can work out what's going on.
Okie dokie.
Unless other people got any other thoughts,
Sounds logical.
or just push on. Yeah,
The-
just push on.
So with the data that just seemed like static that we received from the ship, can we sort of try to cater for time dilation to see if we can get a more coherent message, or is it just static?
At the moment, Lieutenant Natala can confirm, and actually the communications officer would be the one doing this. The comm officer would say that at the moment it's just static, like somebody left the ship's the Atlantis communication system on, but it's unknown whether or not they're receiving and trying to reply, or if they just basically left the radio on. It's difficult to tell at this range. One thing I will note, as you start trying to pull away, as Keval starts to bring the ship around, you notice that the ship is getting very sluggish. In fact, it's barely making any forward headway as you're trying to pull away from the gravity well of the wormhole, to the point that you need to expend extra power just to pull out of the so-called safe zone that you just went into. So you did have to burn some ship's power there to pull out.
I think that was worthy to burn the power then, yeah.
I just burned the power there, so yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fibers is twitching in the background because his warp core is kind of getting a bit stressed.
Yes.
Engineering, do you have any more power for us?
I've got plenty of power for you. He says, but yeah, not sure I like the idea of getting much closer to that.
Yeah.
Says
Is it
Clive
worth
Rose.
noting? Did we start to experience any significant time dilations? Like, is the ship's chronometer slightly out now?
The ship's chronometer is not slightly out, but if anybody goes to the trouble of connecting to any subspace relays to get the general galactic time, you will find that a week has passed. Anything else?
I think it might be worthwhile as after doing that is that we ping a Starfleet recommendation of what we found so far, and then head to the planet side.
So they at least don't think you're missing in action as well. Yeah. Encountered time dilation and wormhole, blah blah blah. Yeah, that's no problem. Comm officer can send that quick data packet off. Alright then, what would you like to do? I will actually say this, I need a quick loo break, and this is a good chance for other people to quickly nip off, get a drink or something, if everybody's okay with just taking a quick 2-minute break.
We good to that?
Yeah, cool.
Sure.
So we'll just break for all of 2 minutes, and then we'll come back. Excuse me.
You too.
Okay.
One quick intermission.
One intermission later. Do.
Matt, have you had any of the temporal newspapers, by the way, in Star Trek Online at the moment?
I can't say I have, no.
There's one, we're talking about the changelings and there's one that I got which I found quite funny, which is about the transporter chief on DS9 has been revealed to be a member of species 8472. However, they were that deep undercover that they'd forgotten that they were from species 8472. They were the most surprised out of anyone to find out that they were actually a shapeshifter, and that they're now cooperating with Star Trek intelligence, etc. And their commanding officer is sort of like very disappointed that their best transporter chief has now had to be removed from their position. I was like, that tickled me so much just reading that one.
Was
Nice.
it O'Brien again? Because Paul O'Brien got shit on so much.
Well,
It's like,
go on.
I remember, there's an episode where he gets possessed by an evil alien on the Enterprise and spends most of his time harassing and traumatizing his wife. So they end up taking the family and making a break on a space station far away. A few years later, his wife gets possessed by an evil alien, spends most of the time harassing and traumatizing him. They just can't get a break, can they?
in the run-up to running this, not just this episode, but the campaign as a whole, I bit the bullet and actually started watching Lower Decks.
Yeah.
And the end of one of those episodes, they kind of fast forward a little bit in time to have this teacher teaching about notable members of the Federation, and says, "Right now, class, we will turn over to perhaps the most celebrated hero in Starfleet history, Chief of Operations Miles O'Brien." I think it was...
Poor guy deserved it.
He did. It was an observation by the son of friends of mine that when they were watching DS9, he said, "Wow, Chief O'Brien must have a bad back." Why is that? Because he keeps having to carry the entire crew of the station.
Yeah.
It's true. He deserved that promotion to just teach at Starfleet
Yeah.
Academy.
Yeah, he's going through all the possessions. There was the time where his daughter got lost for a few hours and came back through a time anomaly and was now an unruly teenager. There was a time where his wife got transformed into a preteen. And there was a time when it turned out that his best friend, who he'd known for years on the space station, turned out to be of the same kind as the most, it was basically the Star Trek equivalent of Space Hitler.
Which apparently Alexander Siddig was not happy with.
Yeah,
Or at
to
the
be
very
honest,
least,
I actually...
he was not happy with how it was a very much last-minute decision.
Yeah, because I thought that was actually quite a good twist that made a lot of sense considering how he was portrayed rather inconsistently and oddly until that point.
It also
I do.
Go on, sorry.
I do know there was the thing where they wanted basically the thing to be a revelation to the people watching, but they wanted it to keep it secret from the crew, and he basically said, "No, you can't have this be revealed," and then going back to an in-character secret. That doesn't work, which I think was definitely the right call.
I liked the way they made the whole genetically modified thing an allegory for autism.
Yeah.
Later on, when they showed those other genetically enhanced individuals, but the genetic enhancement had gone wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you watch it now, and it's like these guys are, such an allegory for autism, but it was beautifully done. So
Yeah.
it's like, they could see things and make logic, not leaps, but logical connections that average people couldn't.
Yeah. But they could. It's like a lot of them. They played the thing of they could see what the solution was. They couldn't figure out why people were getting hung up on the journey. At least that's how it came off to me. Yeah.
It was very interesting.
Yeah. And I did like, the way, again, Alexander Siddig played it very well as having to interact with these people and literally thinking every time he interacted with them, this was very nearly my life.
Yeah.
He did that very well.
Well, he's, Alexander Siddig is still around making bit part appearances here and there, so it's nice to see him turn up every now and again in places. So.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Underrated actor, that guy.
Oh. Yeah, I would say underutilized, but then he turns up in so many places, I'm not sure he is underutilized. Webby, what are you doing?
Nothing.
Are you spinning the command crew?
You spin us right round, baby, right round, like a graviton anomaly, right round, round, round.
Are we all back?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome sauce.
You're gonna start saying
You have not just made the captain dead. Hands off.
Mission mailed.
Radioactive. Anywho's. Right. After that short stint with trying to get closer to the anomaly, you are now outside of the wormhole's gravitational pull. You've sent a message to Starfleet to say we are experiencing time wonk. Time is going wonky. What do you want to do now?
Well, first the captain has to freeze time to make a supplemental log report.
That's fine. What do you guys actively want to do next?
I think planet side was the initial conversation, wasn't it?
Okay.
Yeah.
Is
Alrighty.
it safe to use transporters on this planet? To the planet?
Should be. A little bit of configuration will need to happen, but nothing that's too difficult.
It
Might
might be
be an
safer.
idea for.
I was just about to say it might be safer to use shuttlecraft because
Yeah.
time displacement on it. Well, actually, you just switch off the Heisenberg compensator and anything's possible. So.
Might also be an idea just in case to take down some pattern enhancers in case we need to use them.
Okay. So the question now becomes, who is beaming down?
So we take the 4 active people. So we got the doc, we got the scientist, we got security, and then we've got Con for. Well, Keval's got. Yeah,
I don't
Keval
think Keval should beam down. I think he should stay with the ship in case of emergency navigation or tasks that need to happen.
Okie dokie. Give me just a moment then. This is a great point at which we can start to use supporting characters.
Is Jan going to take Ensign Crimson
Redshirt.
Jumper? Crimson Jumper.
So yeah, this is a good excuse. So, who do we want to actually go down? The Doctor makes a good. There's a good reason for Dr. Bertram to go down. His
Yep,
knowledge of plants and the fact that there's potentially someone who needs help.
Oh
Doctor
yeah,
as
yes.
well.
You must heal people.
So let me copy you, send you to the transporter room.
Yay.
Who else? Well, it's a security situation as well, so it would make sense for Commander Andrews to go.
It would probably make sense for Nova to go because of the temporal displacement of kind of like it's an operational issue.
Yeah, I'm thinking I might need to get a sense of his mental well-being and adjustment as well.
Good point. So Nova should go. So this now begs the question of which type of supporting character should go instead of Keval. So we've got
Engineer?
an engineer, if you want.
I think engineer or science.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem as if there's an overt threat down there, so probably don't need security.
Oh, we could take the transporter chief.
Right, so I'm gonna put here on the bridge a blank engineer supporting character. Now, for a bit of fun, what say we randomly determine what species they're going to be?
Well,
As long as it's not Vulcan.
Yeah, I put a picture up of our supporting characters so that we know roughly what they look like.
I mean, unless you want to choose a species, or shall I just roll randomly for it and we'll see what we get as a result?
Random's always fun.
Yeah, I'm fine with random.
Alright, here we go. Roll and it's Betazoid.
Oh, boring.
I can roll again.
No. We can have the old Betazoid cliche of the two of them staring at each other, having a conversation empathically. Then the camera moving to the rest of the crew on the set, looking at them awkwardly, going, "They're just standing there."
Well, one might be telepathic and one might be empathic, because
Yeah.
Nova's empath, not telepath. So the other one is trying to communicate with Nova, and Nova's just staring blankly at them like, I can hear what you're saying, but I am empath, not telepath.
Okay, so we want a quick Betazoid image. Snag one from Star Trek Online. You will do.
This is where I find out it's Ensign Suter from Voyager. We're like, what?
So, species Betazoid. Let's give him a face. So, Betazoid. Let's port that over.
To give him a face, you have to name.
Well, this is it.
Yeah, we don't want to get.
This
don't get
is
to
our
know them.
first made supporting character, so we do kind of want to give him a name rather than just engineer. So I don't know if somebody wants to go on the Star Trek name generator and see if they can generate a Betazoid name.
Can we please have Claret red shirt, Claret sweatshirt?
Well, he's
I
not. He's an
reckon,
engineer, so he's going to be gold.
Yes, engineer.
Well, we just could call him something like Transen Rubum. Transen sounds alien, and Rubrum is a very bad bastardization of red in Latin.
Transom Ruben. that's just alien. Would it be Ruben Tramsen? Yeah, Ruben Tramsen would be red alien.
Ikran Bravo.
Betazoid names are weird. Troy, Bravo.
Bravo with 2 A's, I hasten to note.
Bravo.
I quite like Lieutenant Bravo.
Bravo.
I'll go with that. Bravo, Bravo.
Bravo. Bravo. I can't stop.
This is
Ikran
where he gets it.
Bravo.
This is why he doesn't appear on the bridge that often, because he just gets the piss taken out of him. Bravo, well done, well played.
It's like, Captain, we're being he runs in, Captain, we're being invaded, and everyone applauds and goes, bravo. Seriously, the Borg are killing us.
So, supporting characters, you should all have right, can someone confirm or deny whether or not you can actually move? Yeah, cool. Got him, Jan?
Yep, bravo.
Let's change him from engineer to Lieutenant Bravo. Alrighty. So, in that case, I will copy him over to the transporter room. So basically, Jan, you get to have a bit of fun with just creating an entirely new personality. He can be as bland or as interesting as you wish.
Please have it that he's a part-time thespian.
Bravo.
This has the capacity.
French, wherefore art thou?
The good thing about supporting characters is, though, now that we've established Lieutenant Bravo as a supporting character, it's not necessarily locked into Jan being him from now on. Whenever the situation comes up again where we could use a supporting character and it's an engineer, then somebody else could potentially be.
Does he have the talent of multiple personality disorder? So
Well,
that's why his mannerisms change every now and then.
This is the thing where
weird ones.
we can,
See, yeah,
as the first one to use it, Jan now has purview to go wherever he wants with it, within reason. But
I prefer not to be called multiple personality disorder. I just call it myself plural. We are plural.
So we are the
we are
Bravo.
Lieutenant Bravo.
well, considering Bravo's a betazoid, the inability to distinguish self from those around could be an interesting telepathic issue.
See, I was going to suggest that Jan play it like they wrote Troy in the very first episode before they realised having her have to role play all the emotions she was feeling at any given moment was really going to get old fast.
Oh, one thing I need to give Bravo is some pattern enhancers. Let's see. Equipment. So you've got your engineering toolkit. Let's see about pattern enhancers. Plasma torch, personal force field, pattern enhancer. There we go. So they come in a set of 3. So just because you've only got 1 in the inventory, we assume that you've got enough 3 to be placed. All right. Can everybody see the transporter room?
Yes.
Yep.
Awesome. Right. Okie dokes. This is where I test my new bit of hardware out. So, everybody's ready? Here we go. It didn't run it. God damn it. Did it just refuse to load? It ran the sound, it didn't run the special effect. That's upsetting.
Who would have thought it? A transporter accident on Star Trek.
I did see the twirly bits. That
Did
was
see
it.
the twirly bits?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I didn't. Let me do that again. You can see it, I can't. Okay, let's go from there. To the crash site. I got most of you. So I need a bit of work.
Transporter accident.
Yeah.
Right, who's got? Right, so we've
Who's
got.
not there?
What is it now? Nova.
Okay.
We've got Brava. Well, Bravo and Nova have fused into one Beta Z.
One betazoid per way mission.
Yeah.
You've overstated your betazoid quota.
To have more than one betazoid, we got to sign up for premium transporter access.
Let me get you from the bridge.
For some
Hey,
reason,
to-
I can now
hey,
see an Erienne and a Lieutenant Erienne Nova token.
That's a shame. I was hoping that would go better. Nevertheless, beaming down. Okay, let's change the ambience too on the planet's surface.
I changed them.
All right, so let's see. First thing you notice.
The doctor screaming
There is-
joyfully.
Sorry, what was that?
The first thing you notice is the doctor scream joyfully as he's surrounded by plants.
Oh yeah, totally whipping out the tricorder and scanning the plans.
I'm so glad you finished that sentence rather than just, I'm so glad I'm whipping it out. I was like,
I'm a doctor, not a pervert. And
Okay.
there's
Like,
my first one of
where's-
the campaign.
yeah, where's Dr. Bertram? And then just sort of like, why is there a phaser discharge from your rifle, Commander Andrews? No comment, ma'am.
Okay, you can make out, obviously the view of a crashed shuttle pod. But interestingly enough,
Does it look?
scattered around the area, in the general area nearby, are the remnants of another set of debris, which doesn't correspond to any damage that you can see from the shuttle pod. So you would have to reason that the debris that you can see, which is just slightly off the end of this map, is from a different ship. The sheer quantity of it, scattered over a very large area, and the fact that a good number of trees have been felled, would suggest that a much larger ship also crashed here. But the sheer scattering of the debris would suggest that the ship was already in pieces when it was in orbit, therefore hit for a larger what's the word I'm looking for? Larger area. So
Uh-oh. Somebody made a mess of this.
So you now have a jagged landscape around you, where slabs of rock jut upwards. Limbless trees stand at unnatural angles, hanging on even as the land has shifted beneath them. Fallen trees litter the uneven ground. Twisted, blue-barked seedlings sprout from the carcasses. Several volcanoes can be seen smoking in the distance, filling the sky with ash. The sun is a cold yellow disk in the ash clouds.
My initial recommendation would be for the Doctor and Nova to scan for any signs of human life signs, and Lieutenant Bravo to scan the shuttle to determine time since it crashed, along with operational condition. Because if it's still got power, it would presumably be a base of operation for whoever came down in it.
Okay. One thing I do need to add, the hull of the pod and the wreckage that you see nearby is covered in a blanket of strange blue-tinted moss, which appears to be one of the few plant species actively thriving at the moment. The pre-Federation shuttle pod rests nearby. Its roof and sides are thick with bluish moss, except around the door hatch, which has been cleared in patches as if removed by hand.
Okay, I'm literally going to start scanning the sort of plants, especially the blue moss around there. Those priorities, make sure that there's nothing in the environment that will have a negative impact on us.
Alrighty, so let me find... Alright then, so can I get you to give me this is a tricorder, so control plus medicine, please. And you get to add your focus of botany to this. Everyone else, while he's doing that, what are you doing? Anybody else? What are you doing?
Lieutenant Bravo will also be scanning, but more to determine the type of the wreckage, and also if there are any active power sources.
Okay. In that case, I am going to allow you to also make a control plus science check for Lieutenant Bravo. Do you have access to his character sheet? Yes, you do. 2 successes. Awesome. There is a small power signature, as in the dormant, last flickering vestiges of a power signature within the shuttle pod. The wreckage has no power signature whatsoever, but the energy signature attached to the wreckage would suggest Romulan. Nova, what are you doing?
I'm probably just gonna start focusing my mind trying to pick out any of the life forms in the area.
Okay, in that case, I would like a insight and command check from you, please. Meanwhile, what's Commander Andrews doing?
Well, at the mention, I assume that the mention of Romulans will be. There's a Romulan power signature. That would trigger kind of like scanning the area for vantage points, etc. at the situation, along with moving to ensure that once the area is safe, to take point on entering the shuttle.
Okay, so let me think. So just to clarify, there was no Romulan power signature, but the wreckage held a residual energy trace on it, which suggests that the ship wreckage, the massive wreckage, was from a Romulan ship. There's no active power signal in it, though, because it's just been obliterated.
I got 3 successes on my scanning, by the way.
I will get to you momentarily.
Okay.
Commander Andrews looking for a high point to have a look around, though. These would be the high points here. Large rocky outcroppings with kind of mossy tops on them. So that would be your best vantage point.
I'm going to make a climb check.
Now, just as you are about to make a climb check, Dr. Bertram, as you scan the area around, you get close to a patch of moss, of this strange moss. And as you hold out your medical scanner up to it, you know, the little like handheld thingy that attaches to the top of the medical tricorder. As you start shining that close to the moss, you notice activity within the moss. The moss starts to extend little filaments out, and it starts reaching for the tricorder. So as you scan this, you realize that the moss is a kind of vegetation that seeks out energy sources, which would make sense as to why it is thriving when all the other plant life isn't, because your best guess is that the gravitational disturbances from the wormhole have caused a lot of tectonic upheaval, hence why you see a lot of cracked raised ground and plants keeled over and volcanoes in the distance. The volcanoes have created an ash cloud which has obscured the sun, which means a lot of the plant life is not able to photosynthesize as well as it usually could, so they're all kind of dying out. The moss, however, seems to live less on photosynthesis, more on just absorbing energy. Your guess would be mostly geothermal and radiation, which explains as to why it's coated the ship, because it's detected the power from the ship and the moss is basically growing in the direction of where it can feed. And it's now extending filaments towards your tricorder because it's detected the energy from your tricorder.
Right. How far are these filaments stretching away from the moss? Like, are they literally going like tendrils?
Yes.
Disturbing you?
And you notice when you look down, the moss filaments are starting to extend towards your feet.
Okie dokie. Is it conceivable the life energy may also be something it can absorb?
Well, if this thing if this plant life is used to feeding on radiation generated by sunlight or geothermal energy from below, it's obviously reacting to your body heat, or indeed the energy output of your devices. And it's just about at that moment that you notice that Commander Andrews is about to put her hand on a big patch of the stuff to try and climb up to her vantage point.
Okay, as soon as I see that, I can say, check Commander Andrews, I recommend against any physical contact with that moss that you're about to reach. And I'm also taking a step back away from the moss reaching out towards me.
Okay. As Andrews starts backing away and turns her attention to the doctor, it's at that same point that Nova gets a sudden flash of emotion from somewhere. She gets a read of anxiety coupled with primal anger, and it's coming from somewhere very close nearby, and that's when Nova notices a figure on the top of the nearer outcropping that is now drawing what looks like a bow and is aiming towards Commander Andrews. And because you sensed it, you're able to shout a warning.
Yep.
As such,
Lieutenant Commander, look out!
as such, I'm going to throw this into initiative. So let's do. So as before, naturally you guys get to go first, and then an enemy NPC. So who of your lot do you want to go first, or is that a foregone conclusion?
Yeah.
Probably Andrews, given that she's the one who's about to be shot.
Okay. So quickly change the ambience. So this man is rugged. He's got lanky hair. He's unshaven, and he's got a very wild look in his eyes. His clothes are like rags and tatters, but it looks like they used to be some kind of uniform. But there's holes in it. There are pockets missing or ripped out or just hanging from it, and he seems to have fashioned a kind of makeshift bow and arrow from one part wreckage, two parts branches and whatever he could scavenge. So he's on an elevated position above Lieutenant Commander Andrews. Commander Andrews, it's your turn first.
I assume he looks human.
Yes.
From the picture. And what kind of bow is it? What kind of bow is he wielding? Sorry, just basically
bow. A scrap bow.
Well, I don't actually want to attack him, so I think I'd like to be more communicative and just kind of like hold the phaser rifle, but not pointed at him, and then try and just talk him down.
Okay. So, give me your best. Let's see, this is going to be a presence and command check. You know how you took points out of presence?
Yeah. Can I possibly use my focus of PTSD survivalist?
Ooh. Your focus PTSD survival champion. Yes! That is a darned good reason to use that focus. I'm going to go with a definite yes. Excuse me. One success. Okay. So, you hold the weapon up in a guarded stance, but you do address him in a fashion to say, you know, we're not here to fight you, we're here to help. I can see you've been here alone for a long time, but, you know, it's over now. We're here to help you. You're not alone anymore. So, that is technically your action, but I will allow you to have a readied action available of shoot him if he attacks. And again, just for everybody's note, we assume that all weapons are set to stun as default. And the only, if you do want to go lethal, you have to inform me of such so that I up the threat, get a point of threat for you, upping the overall threat level from going to lethal. I can't remember the actual word for it, but That's the general idea. Escalation.
Is it something like escalation?
That was it. Escalation. I remembered it eventually. So for escalating the threat, I actually gain threat. So we go into the assumption that you're all using stun. So, with that regard, yeah, you got one success. Let me see. He looks down at Andrews, he looks across at the others. He just seems to have a wild-eyed look about him. He is going to draw back his bow anyway. He's going to actually take a shot at somebody else. No, I'm going to make it a random one. So, 1, it's Nova. 2, it's Bravo. 3, it's the Doc.
If he kills Lieutenant Bravo here, then there will be hell to pay.
So he's going to make a attack with a bow. And then that applies. So he gets 2 successes. He needed 1 to get, so I get extra threat to that. Doc. You take 2 stress from getting an arrow hit. As a crude arrow with a flint head just kind of just gets launched at you and strikes you in the upper chest near the shoulder. It doesn't penetrate, so that it's crudely made. It's effective, but it's crudely made, so the head of the arrow doesn't actually bury itself in you like arrows are meant to, but it does cause a definite penetrative wound. But the arrow just kind of is easily removable. And the wild man just kind of, as he fires, he just kind of roars in rage. A very wild look about him. Lieutenant Bravo, what would you like to do?
I shall run for cover.
Okay,
I
the nearest point
run
of cover
towards
is
the shuttle.
either... Yeah, you've either got this boulder over here, or you've got behind the shuttle pod.
I'll head towards the shuttle pod.
Okay. So you should be able to move, I hope. Yep, off he goes. So you're now behind cover, so the difficulty to hit is should be 1 greater.
Don't want to stand here.
Okay. Is that all you want to do?
I shall also take out the Type 1 phaser, but just stand ready and scan the other direction, so towards the bottom of the map.
Okay. You gain nothing from the scan. There's no other life forms nearby. Nova.
I think I'm just gonna have to try and stun him. I'm gonna go for the stun first. We'll deal with him in medical.
So what's your action, sorry?
Fire my phaser at him.
Fire phasers.
Yes.
So that's going to be the control plus security check.
Yes.
He's in an elevated position, but you are aware that he's there, so ho! You got 1 success over what you needed. So you can, if you want, for some reason this is failed to fire those effects. It's a fault. You can, if you want, use that extra success over what you needed, since you've already got maximum momentum. You can add an extra damage dice to the stun. So if you click on your Type 2 phaser, where it asks for the number of dice, increase it from 4 to 5. Cool, so there were 2 effects. The effects on the phaser is mostly charge. So that can just be converted, so. Here we are. So he takes a shot. But he's still active. Do you want to move anywhere?
No, I'll stay where I am, I think.
Okay. Alright then, so we move over to Dr. Bertram. What does Dr. Bertram want to do?
Sorry, I had the coughing fit and I muted
fine.
myself, forgot to unmute. First, I'm going to fall back. I want to actually sort of fall back, but I don't want to go anywhere with it, sort of like that moss or anything else looking suspicious plant-wise.
So there's
That's
this,
why I'm not going towards the ship. Yeah.
this kind of rocky outcropping here.
Yeah. Okay, I'll fall back to there. I take it is sort of like it's a fairly clean rock.
As clean as it can be, yes.
Yeah. Okie dokie, and I will just go to my normal watching out for getting ready to help with any medical stuff. And also keep an eye, because if that... You said that moss was approaching my feet as I was scanning it, like its attention was attracted. I'm feeling, especially if people are going to start using phasers, that moss might actually start getting attracted to phaser fire and start going for people. And I have no idea what debilitating stuff that might actually cause, so I'm keeping an eye on that.
Alright then, noted. Cool beans. So, Andrews. He responded to you in that he didn't target you, but then as soon as he looked at other people, he seemed to switch back into attack mode almost. So you're not sure this guy's entirely stable? But it's your turn, so what would you like to do?
Can I try again, and then if he doesn't seem to respond further, shoot him? Or is that too... right, so I don't move anywhere?
I will allow you to once again try and reach him as a minor action, but as a full action then afterwards, as a major action, I should say.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. Using the focus again or not?
Yep. One success. No. He doesn't seem to even acknowledge that you're there.
Okay, so then it's control and security, isn't it? To shoot.
And you're using the rifle, yes?
Yes. So I assume that my focus of battlefield tactics kicks in for this then?
Yeah, I can see that.
Oh god.
You can spend the momentum to re-roll that if you want.
Can I burn a momentum?
I think yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so re-roll results. There we are, 2 successes. That was what you needed to hit. So roll the damage for the rifle. 9 successes! Hey!
And 4 effects. I'm like, Jesus.
The effects on this are...
Shaun in the heart.
It's not the type 3, where's the type 3? Accurate, charge, nothing else. But 9 successes. With that rifle shot, you basically hit him and stun him, knock him unconscious. He does fall off the ledge, but it's not that far, as most of the plant life cushions his fall when he lands. Kill combat. So that was a heck of a shot.
In the back.
Didn't headshot him. Headshot. Fatality.
9 successes, 4 effects. Wow.
Yeah, quite. If you'd have actually...
confetti to come out.
Yeah, shoot to kill, he would have just been vaporized. And just like, oops. Did you find any survivors? No.
Nobody survived. That's not quite what we asked.
All right, guy is down.
No, I would probably ask Nova to attend to Lieutenant Bertram's injury, and at the same time, I would secure this gentleman's weapon and tie him up.
Right.
Is there any sign of the moss moving?
Not at present, no. You're away from most of the moss patches all the way over there.
Yeah. Can we see any sort of like sign of the moss moving towards like Andrews and this guy?
No.
Bravo.
The moss, thankfully, is on the slopes.
Yeah.
They seem to be staying away from this water source.
Interesting. As almost over, I'll call out. Just everybody, just let you know that blue moss appears to be attracted to energy sources and directly absorbs energy. Mostly radiated energy, possibly geothermal, but might also be attracted to sort of actual body heat if you're not careful. In near it and you fire off insight phasers or use technology, it does seem to get attracted to that as well. Be aware of that.
So the cyborg is going to pick up this individual and move from the moss.
Okay.
I'll start trying to
Carefully
shoot the
steps
arrow.
away from the ship.
Yeah. Okay. What would you like to do now?
Shaun was saying that Nova's going to try and heal
can
Bertram.
Yeah.
At
So
least, like, before we get moved back up and field dress it.
yeah. So it can be properly seen to when you're back on the ship.
Yeah.
For the moment, though, thanks to Nova's assistance and, of course, to the doctor's own medical knowledge, you recover the stress you lost.
Thank you very much.
Since it was only 2. So, what would you like to do now?
I'll do some medical examination of the guy. If I can see any obvious wrong within, perhaps any sort of toxins or allergens or anything like that in the system that might have caused him to go wild.
Okay.
Is it also worthwhile undertaking a chronomatic scan, if possible, to determine if there is a temporal distortion?
Well, that's what you've got the engineer and Nova for.
Although scanning his clothing, we'd probably be able to work out the age of his clothing, which would suggest where he's from.
If I focus on his, perhaps someone with more scientific knowledge will be able to actually scan his for like things like chronoton particles or stuff.
So, this is going to be a... I'm going to ask for an insight plus medicine check from Dr. Bertram.
Okay.
I will allow you to add your biology focus.
Thank you.
2 successes.
2 successes.
Okay. That was pretty much what you needed. Just a second to check what I need to know. Let me see. Ragged and torn. Okay, no, you actually needed only 1 success for that, so I'll give you that extra momentum. So, yes, it appears this man is under the influence of a potent substance with psychotropic effects that alters perception and mood. His extreme agitated and paranoid state appears to be a direct result of this ingested compound.
So he actually ingested, like he was resorted to eating something that had this effect on him?
That would be another check. Reason plus science.
Okay. Reason
this one
plus
without
science.
a focus.
Okay.
2 successes.
2 successes.
Exactly what you needed. Right.
Yay.
So, the nearby river appears to contain a chemical compound that acts like a powerful psychotropic drug, but specifically on the human mind alone. So it's something to do with its interaction with human biology that is causing that effect.
Right. Okay, I'll... as I scan this, I will let the people know what I find, and particularly warn them about the water and the river nearby having this compound.
Okay.
Would it help to take samples?
Couldn't hurt.
Yeah.
I guess I'll volunteer for that then, being Opsy and non-human.
That's
Yeah,
a good
don't-
point. Yeah. So yes, we assume that you have a sample container either given to you by the doctor or on your science kit. So there's no roll or check necessary for this.
Okay.
Meanwhile, whilst they're doing that, is it worthwhile Lieutenant Bravo and myself investigating the actual ship itself to see if there's any kind we can kind of get power restored to at least get hold of the records if there are any?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think it might be worthwhile going round the back of the ship though, if there's less moss this way.
Well, the trouble is there's no entrance to the shuttle pod except the doors.
Yeah.
And the doors are both... Only one door is not covered with that much moss. The one at the back
That's
is.
the other one then.
The one to the north is the one that has got less moss. Less moss.
Lieutenant, if you would be, if you're happy to do the honours.
We are happy. Lieutenant Bravo examines the door to see if there's any sort of damage, and if not, is it possible to open it remotely, or if not, then try and open it without getting in contact with any of the moss.
Okay, the door appears to be openable and is used apparently fairly frequently, so there's no problem getting the door open except for the fact that there is moss on it. However, what you do notice is that there's a long, flat piece of starship wreckage lying just next to the door, and there are traces of the moss on a particularly jagged edge. It looks like someone has used that as a makeshift moss scraper.
Is it worth as a minor experiment we see what happens if you actually hit the moss with a phaser burst, whether it burns it?
You could try that.
Based on what the doctor said, it might promote growth, and then we might not be able to open the door. So I suggest we shoot the patch not close to the door.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you've got settings on your phasers, usually from 1 to 10. So basically, pick a setting.
I'd say 5.
Okay. So identifying a patch of moss nearby, probably the one that you nearly put your cybernetic hand on. You can use a rating 5 setting, yes. Now, are you going to do a directed burst or a wide-angle dispersal burst?
I would say directed burst.
Okay. Okay. So, I won't ask for a weapon check from you because you're just shooting a stationary, unmoving object. From Bravo, though, I will ask for a insight plus science check in order to tricorder to determine what the effects of the phaser are having on the moss, so you can make an educated guess thereafter what's the best setting to use. So, Jan, if I can have that check. Science! This is how you conduct science. You point the phaser at it and start at the midpoint setting. Okay, so yeah. As you hold out the tricorder and analyze what's going on. Andrews fires a quick burst at level 5 of her phaser at a patch of moss. The moss kind of glows. It shrivels a little bit. It's like your tricorder scan reads that the filaments inside of the moss actively absorbed the phaser energy, but as they did, it was like what's the best way to describe this? It's like they were trying to drink raw fire. So they absorbed it, but it burnt on the way down. So even though the moss absorbed the phaser hit, it did damage it. So you reckon, using that information, if you set the phaser level to 1 higher, and then set the phaser to be a wide angle but thin dispersal, so it's almost like it disperses outwards but in a line rather than a cone, you can create like a squeegee effect where you burn the moss off. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Awesome. So I'm presuming that's what you do. It takes a bit of work.
Adjust my phaser.
Yeah.
And sweep the door.
So it's not a quick and immediate thing. It's a slow thing. So it takes a couple of minutes to fully pass the beam down the door in order to clear off the moss. Especially as the rest of the moss starts to react to the presence of the beam. But you manage to clear off enough that you can now access the door. So I'll unlock that shuttle bay door. So the door is now accessible, so you should be able to click on the door to the shuttle and enter if you wish.
Is it worth a non-human entering first in case there's more of them vines and got inside?
We shall enter first.
Okay. Hopefully you can now see the interior.
Yep.
Excuse the numbers. As you can see, I got it from a schematic. The numbers aren't actually there. So you are now inside of the ship. It's pretty rough in there. It looks like somebody is using it as a sleeping quarters. It smells a bit. Obviously, the man who was the survivor crashed here and must be using the shuttle interior as a living space. As such, since he hasn't managed to wash in a long time, or he has managed to wash, but obviously the water has done something to his brain. So a few things here and there are messed up or just strewn haphazardly about the place. There is no power at the moment.
But there doesn't seem to be any presence of the fungus inside.
Not inside, no. However,
Signal the
you
old
could
inlet.
always give it a jump. You want to bring back minimal emergency power.
I'll see if the consoles have got any power, otherwise I'll have to look at the engineering section and see if I can bring up any kind of systems other than
This will
basic
be
emergency.
Yeah, this will be a reason plus engineering. And I'm going to allow you to use damage control and repair focus. Difficulty 1. 3 successes.
Right,
Wow.
Lieutenant Bravo is allowed out on future wreck missions.
Way.
Bravo.
Nice. So, yeah. You get power back up. Now, there's a lot of damaged systems, so screens are flickering and crackling, and this is old technology. So there are no LCAR systems, it's all actual push buttons and flick switches.
I grab the mouse, bring it up to my mouth, and say, "Computer."
Computer?
A keyboard. How quaint.
Yes.
No, commands have to be actually punched into the console, it seems. It takes you a couple of moments to realize this.
Can't believe people used to fly in these things.
Quite. You don't get much. These systems have degraded and a lot of systems are damaged, but you do manage to get something. There are personal logs made that were saved on the system. That's the only thing you can manage to get currently.
Can I see just roughly the date range of these logs?
Well, according to the logs, they were made a week ago. But the star date, the actual date it reckons is, 200 years ago.
If
There's
at
no
any point
star
in the
date,
log,
it's an actual Earth date.
see, if at any part of the log the person making the log says "Liberate me," I'm running.
Well, it's all in text. But yes, I'm not going Event Horizon. I've mentioned the term Event Horizon enough. I'm not actually going there. But,
or as we call it, the actual Doom movie.
I am going to share with everybody the personal logs that you find. Which is, I know, reading.
I'm disgusted at this. They're all supplemental. Did he have any respect for dating?
So let me know when you have finished. I know some of faster readers than others, so...
Cheerful.
Okay, so this is the last survivor.
Dr. Bertram is going to continue his medical scans and see if there's a way we can try sort of like such as systems do some sort of like repairing of the damage that the psychotropics have done on his mind.
In order to do that, you would probably need to create an antitoxin.
Right.
And you don't have the equipment for that here. You would have to do that in the sick bay back on the Navis.
Right. Okay.
But because Nova had the foresight to take a sample, it will be easier to use the sample rather than what's churning about in his system to form an antitoxin.
On that as well, can we scan the doctor's wound, make sure nothing's got into it, because he had an arrow shot into him that could have been moss covered?
Yeah, so I'm assuming that the doctor was able to use a dermal regenerator in order to seal up the wound, and in doing so would have scanned himself to see if there were any bacterial infection or fungal infection that might have gotten in. The doctor appears to be fine.
Yay!
But there's now a
That's what we
tear
like
in
to-
his uniform that somebody's going to have to stitch.
Ah, Lieutenant Taylor. Taylor.
he was well named.
I think we. Oh, sorry, you first, Jan.
I'm slightly confused by the log though, because if the ship was the Atlantis was not here when the fight took place, as we seem to think, but the planet was. I think the question is, did the planet travel, or did the Atlantis travel during the fight to this planet through the anomaly?
It seems like from that, how I read it is that both ships probably came through the anomaly without realizing, because it's that they've spent several days playing cat and mouse through an asteroid field. How do they know it was several days and not several years?
Good point.
I think we get this. I think we've got all we can get from the planet side. We get this individual back on board the Navis. Doctor, if you're able to source a cure for the psychedelics, we may be able to find some more information out and see what he knows of the situation.
Yeah. If
Plus,
it's
with it being a single survivor, it will be easier to keep as much information in the dark as possible.
If it's feasible, I'd like to see if we can beat myself and him directly to sick bay, not only for the reasons we previously discussed, being he's 200 years at a time, but also just in case there's any other qualities of what he may have ingested or been exposed to on this planet. The less exposure we give our ship, the less risk we have to our crew.
Yes. Which they don't do in Star Trek anymore, but they used to always be. Everyone would go into decontamination on ship return.
There was a lot of this transporter does it itself nowadays. Like
Yeah,
it
there is,
like
isn't there?
pulls it out. Yeah.
Yeah, the transporter pulls out pathogens and things like that as it's coming
Yeah.
back into the pattern. I see no harm with that. It may be worthwhile is doing a quick scan of the Romulan wreckage,
Okay.
but I assume that their reports are probably going to be similar to this, to the Atlantis, other than that they lost the fight. I don't think we will find a lot of information from the Romulan vessel, especially in the state it's in.
Yeah.
Okay, so what you doing?
I'll try and see if I can find any sort of data storage that might be part of the wreckage.
From the Romulan wreckage?
Yes.
Okay. It takes you a bit of time until you start realizing that the Romulan ship was obliterated. Pretty much nothing survived. They found, obviously, some salvageable tech, but in the time since they found the salvageable tech, they didn't find any data stores. And the one that you do find has been fried from the inside, almost like what's the word I'm looking for? Like a contingency. Romulans are known to be very paranoid, so the possibility of any information about them getting out, or anybody gaining access to information from their ship, was something they probably would want to secure against. So as soon as the data store was disconnected from the main computer, it seemed to trigger a kind of internal sabotage thing, so that the data core got burnt out from the inside.
I believe developed by the Tal Shiar leader, Chief Quimby. This message will always self-destruct.
So yes, you do find a data store stack, but nothing's viable on it whatsoever. But what you do manage to find suggests that the Romulan ship probably took extensive starship weapon damage before it suffered some kind of failure and then got dragged down into the planet by its gravitational pull, and then just smashed on impact. No survivors.
Photon torpedo damage. How quaint.
Back then it was a photonic torpedo. And it was an actual torpedo as well. It was an actual cylinder with a little engine, and it just propelled itself forwards. Rather than the swirly ball of red magic that it is these days.
Is there any sort of ID plate or anything that could be salvaged just as a bit of history? Because it's so old.
Well, yeah, there's the plate on the inside that's, or there's part of the outer fascia that has the serial number of the Atlantis on it.
Oh, that goes up to be transported back.
You're gonna chisel off the nameplate, is it?
Yep.
Ding, ding, ding. You have to spend a bit of time getting rid of the moss to do that. But
Okay.
yes, if you want to take that back. Bit of history. Didn't realise Nova was a collector.
Why not?
Why not? Why not indeed? Is there anything else your team wants to do before they proceed back to the ship? Nope. Okay.
The ship's log mentioned the one-eyed rodent creature, and we haven't spotted any of those, have we?
No, you haven't. Which suggests either they're not around at the moment, or in the time since that log was made, they've all perished. Considering the sheer amount of planetary upheaval that's going on at the moment, it's like it's likely an extinction level event is going on the planet at the moment, but a slow one rather than a meteor impact. It's being it's being altered through the gravitational forces of the wormhole. Anything else from anybody else? Or the same person? Nope. Okie dokie. So, unless there's anything else you guys want to take with you particularly, we'll assemble together so we can beam you all off. Pardon me. Get a bit gassy now. So, assembling together, you bump your communicator badge and ask to be beamed up.
Directly to sickbay, I believe you were requested.
Straight to sickbay? Okie dokie.
Yeah. I believe I'd already arranged with the medical staff for the temporal and medical protocols.
Okie dokie. I am going to therefore move us to sickbay. Let me copy you and you and you. I only got one of you. Typical.
When was it? It was the most important.
It was Bravo.
Lieutenant Bravo. Bravo!
Five.
Oops. Oh, curse me for a fool. I hit the wrong key. I pressed Control C, and rather than Control V, I pressed Control C again. Because apparently that's how I work.
There's multiple copies. He's cloning us.
Well, when Lieutenant Bravo referred to himself as, or themselves as us, apparently he meant literally.
Yeah. He literally put himself in a photocopier.
A telepath with multiple copies of himself.
We are infinite.
So, I haven't forgotten anybody, have I? Nope.
So, if you translate Bravo from Betazoid into English, it translates as Legion.
Don't reveal our secrets like that.
Okay. everybody beams back to immediately to sickbay, and nurses help put the survivor onto the bed, where you can start working him over. And as soon as you do put him down, the ship rocks violently, and the alert klaxon starts to ring.
Okay.
Okay, I think senior officers to the bridge.
Senior officers to the bridge. So I am.
Is this something I'd normally have to go with, or would my priority be?
No, your
patients?
priority would be here. Don't worry about moving your token, Webby. I'll get you there.
Tap Wendy to the door. I want to get in the turbo lift.
Okay.
Do I count as senior?
Turbo lift
Yeah.
is over here.
Yeah, you're the ops officer.
Yeah.
So.
And of course,
no, that's
Lieutenant Bravo. We can't do anything without him.
So there's going to be a copy of you on the bridge, so I'll remove the copy. Time dilation effect. That's what's going on.
It's me.
And me again.
And Lieutenant Bravo's on the bridge. It's like, hello.
Lies.
And the doctor's on the bridge. How did you beat me here, Bertram?
Lies and half truths.
So, at which point the doctor says, "I'll explain later."
So for now, we assume that Bertram is in sickbay, but I'll leave his token there so that Gareth can see what's going on
Yay.
the bridge. So.
Has Nova got lost?
I can't see the door symbol.
There's a stair symbol by here, if you want to use that to get to the bridge. Should take you to the bridge.
Let's point out I now can't get off of the flipping bridge. Right, there we go.
So, Shaun, your token is by here. If you go to the turbo lift, there should be a stair token next to the turbo lift. You press that. You should go to the bridge.
I'm not seeing it.
Okay, I'll move you.
Pop! Blind, but, yeah, I actually don't have a bridge map linked for some reason.
Interesting. Either way,
Okay.
let me activate the bridge.
There we go.
Lieutenant Bravo came with us. I'm going to stick him through the doorway into the sick bay and then close the door.
I've never
not there.
had too many engineers on the bridge.
So, yes, of course, Keval would have been knowledgeable of what was going on the moment the crew beamed on board. But, yes, the ship now rocks violently as, just as the away team were beaming back, the wormhole swelled in size, at which point the gravitational pull of the wormhole, its reach, expanded outwards, and it has now gripped the ship. And the ship is being drawn towards the wormhole. And I'm going to make Lieutenant Nova give me a sensors check. And Jan, feel free to use Navis to aid the sensor check. What we tend to use. It's going to be sensors and science to aid Nova. 1 success, 0 successes. 1 success was all you needed, thankfully. Yeah, you can confirm. Actually, yeah, yeah, you can confirm that the wormhole has expanded. The gravitational forces are expanding outwards. The ship is very much caught in the gravitational pull and is being inexorably drawn back towards the mouth of the wormhole. And it occurs to me that it is 2 minutes to 10. And that is a great cliffhanger to end this session on.
Yay.
So, any questions, comments?
Bridge to engineering. We need more power.
Well, that's probably going to have to be where we start at next week. I trust everybody is available for next week.
I should be, hopefully with a better voice.
Mhm.
After when like the tension went up and we stopped being dragged in, even though it's completely irrelevant, because suggestions, I immediately went to John Delancey going, "The Borg are attacking, I'm gonna die, and it's your fault."
Well, like I notified peeps who pay attention to the Discord channel, that I did a mock battle with the Navis versus 2 Cardassian ships. I do intend at one point to do a mock battle with a Borg cube, just to see how long you last. So that'll be something I'll do at some point.
It's when after he's done that, he doesn't tell us and just starts crying in the start of that session, and we're just like, "Hi Matt, you're right." He's like, "Yeah, fine."
Yeah, the result is you take 20 turns to destroy the Borg cube, or 3 turns if Lieutenant Bravo is in charge.
Because it turns out Lieutenant Bravo is in fact some kind of multimorph, and is able to separate versions of himself, which is why he refers to himself in the plural. And he has telepathic links to every one of them, so he's basically multiple man, and it turns out it's him that's running the entire ship.
He's the night shift.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah,
there we go.
Bravo's the entire night shift.
So we
dragged him onto day
established that he's
shift.
a new type of Betazoid.
Yeah, he's the one the Q were jealous of.
Well, that was brilliant, guys. Thank you very much for coming. That was so entertaining. And even though you did rail a little bit about how you were doing silly shenanigans at the start, that took us. That's what I come here for, honestly.
The silly stuff.
You guys are just so funny.
And
it makes it entertaining for me, So it's great. I love that stuff. It's so fun.
Yeah. And I feel we've made actual serious character development. We went through the entire thing, and not once did we blame the Vulcans for anything.
Well, the Vulcans didn't, or the Romulans only turned up in the background kind of way so far, so you never know. Maybe some of them survived and got onto the Atlantis.
Then we better blow up the Atlantis. It's a spatial anomaly. Fire quantum torpedoes with it now.
Well, this is where I turn off the stream, so thank you for everybody for watching if you did, and we'll see you next week at hopefully the same time of 7 o'clock. This is Star Trek Adventures signing off.